All right, so today we're diving deep, deep into Kaveh Akbar's debut novel, Martyr.
Ooh, murder.
We've got this really insightful excerpt, and I'm
Yeah.
telling there's so much to unpack here.
Yeah, it's a layered one.
Even if you haven't gotten around to reading the whole thing yet, this is going to be like a crash course into the world that Akbar's created.
Definitely.
So get ready, because we're going to be tackling some huge themes here, like identity, cultural heritage, oh, and we can't forget about addiction, and then those existential questions we all grapple with, the big ones.
The kind that really make you think.
Exactly. Right from the start, the excerpt jumps right into the protagonist's, struggle with his dual cultural heritage, being both Iranian and American. So I'm curious, how does the novel actually illuminate this internal conflict for him? I mean, it's got to be more than just checking those boxes on a form, right?
Oh, absolutely. It goes way deeper than that. The novel really digs into the weight of those inherited narratives. Think family history, cultural expectations.
Right.
And how all of that just clashes with the protagonist's lived experience, his reality in America. Like, Akbar paints this really vivid picture of someone trying to reconcile these two worlds within himself.
It's almost like trying to force two puzzle pieces together that were never meant to fit,
Exactly.
Have you ever felt that kind of pull between different cultural influences, like in your own life?
Oh, absolutely. I think most of us have, in some way or another, right, navigated those complexities. But what I find fascinating is how Akbar links this struggle for identity with the whole theme of addiction.
Oh, interesting.
It's like the protagonist's feeling of being culturally displaced contributes to this sense of rootlessness, a yearning for something to ground him.
That's a powerful connection. And the excerpt, it touches on how Martyr uses addiction not just as this personal struggle, but as a lens through which we can examine, wider societal issues. It's more than just substance abuse. It's like a symptom of something bigger, would you say?
Exactly. And you see this reflected in how Akbar connects the protagonist's addiction to those pressures of assimilation, that constant pressure to conform to a dominant culture while still feeling this disconnect from his own heritage.
Right.
There's even this subtle exploration of how, the breakdown of community in modern society, how that can leave people feeling so isolated and lost, and turning to substances, as a way to find solace.
So there's like addiction becomes this window into the cracks in our social fabric in a way.
Yeah.
It really challenges the way we usually think about addiction, those oversimplified narratives, right?
Oh, it definitely does. And what I find so compelling about Akbar's approach is that he doesn't shy away from those dark, complex parts of addiction. But he also explores this almost spiritual yearning for transcendence that drives the protagonist. It's not just about escape, but about reaching for something bigger than himself.
And the excerpt mentions how Akbar's background, him being a poet, how that really informs his writing style.
Yes. You can see that in the way he uses language, especially when he's trying to convey the protagonist's inner world. Like, there's this one line in the excerpt where the protagonist describes his cravings as a thirst that no earthly water could quench. That imagery, the way it elevates the experience, beyond just the physical, that's pure Akbar.
It adds a whole other dimension.
I think.
It's like we're experiencing addiction through this totally different lens. And speaking of different lenses, the excerpt brings up existentialism as a major theme.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, we're talking about those big questions, right? Fate, free will, the search for meaning. Do those take center stage in Martyr?
Absolutely. And what I really appreciate is that Akbar doesn't give us any easy answers, He doesn't just serve them up on a silver platter. Instead, he uses the protagonist's journey as this vehicle for exploration.
I see.
It's like the novel becomes this space where we, as readers, are invited to wrestle with those big questions right alongside the protagonist.
That's cool.
There's no neat resolution, just this ongoing search for understanding.
It's almost like he's saying, hey, life's messy, it's complicated, and here are some things to think about as you navigate it all.
Exactly.
What resonates with you the most about that approach to existential themes?
I think what strikes me is how Akbar weaves those grand philosophical questions into everyday life. It's not some abstract intellectual exercise. It's about how these questions pop up in the midst of our struggles, our relationships, our addictions.
Right, like they're part of the fabric of life.
Exactly.
It makes them feel so much more relatable. Like those existential dilemmas aren't just stuck in dusty philosophy books. They're alive in the protagonist's daily struggles. And the excerpt really praises the novel's ability to blend their beautiful storytelling with that profound exploration of these themes.
Yes, and that speaks to Akbar's talent as a writer. He manages to capture the essence of those universal human experiences, the search for belonging, the yearning for meaning, the struggle to make sense of it all.
Right.
And he presents them in a way that's both deeply personal and incredibly relatable.
It's like he's holding up a mirror, right, to our own internal landscapes, even if our outer experiences are totally different.
Precisely.
So to bring it all together, Martyr is a powerful exploration of identity, belonging, that human search for meaning, all told through this incredibly poetic lens.
Definitely.
And as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with something to ponder. You know how the excerpt mentions that Martyr challenges readers to think about their own narratives. Well, what story are you telling yourself about your own life? And how is that shaping the meaning you find in your experiences?
That's a good question.
So if this deep dive has piqued your interest, even a little bit, I highly recommend checking out Kaveh Akbar's work. You won't regret it.
Definitely worth the read.
And as always, thanks for joining us.